Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the Unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Let me double check my levels to make sure we're good. It looks like you hear me. That's a good thing. I'm just double checking to make sure my stuff is all good as we get on here and we get ourselves started. So I'm feeling good. I'm in a good place. I'm loving everything. So it looks like you hear me just fine. So first and foremost, I'm going to do like I normally do and say welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. Just welcome. Just flat out, just a great old welcome. Okay, it feels like it's been a long time since I've last seen you, but it really hasn't been that long. Thank you, AB. I see that it's loud and clear, so that's a plus. I just want to make sure. Franklin, how you doing? So, first thing I ask, please drop a hello into chat. Tell me how it's going. Tell me how you've been doing. Anything special happening with you? Drop it in the chat like we do. We checking in on Monday as well. LinkedIn, Facebook, please do that. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Devon Morris. I'm going to be your guide on this journey as we walk and talk today. This is the Unfiltered Call-In Show, where we answer your questions related to Scrum, Agile, even entrepreneurship questions, because obviously we can talk about that. We actually can, can't we? Now, here's the deal. It's been an interesting time for me. Let me tell you first about the rundown and what we're going to talk about today, right? Today, we are going to talk about regulatory compliance. That's it. Agile perspective. Regulatory compliance. But we'll talk about that after we do some check-ins, after we do some intros. What we typically do is we run and talk about the topic for about 10-15 minutes. Around 8:15, 8:20, that's when we will go ahead and, open up the lines for anyone that has questions. So if you think you have a question related to Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, be prepared. I'm going to drop the link. I just went ahead and opened up the interview green room. So you're welcome to come on and join us there. I'm going to drop the information in the chat as well, the link. And that's all I'm really going to do is just drop the link in the chat. So then you all have access to that, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on LinkedIn, join me, okay? First thing I'm going to say, as usual, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, okay? We're always trying to grow the channel. So you like and subscribe, that will actually help us do that. What has been going on? This week has been an interesting week. My daughter had a trunk party. I got a couple classes running right now, half day CSM, half day CSPO. And then it's going to be all about getting the girl to school. So she starts school in April-ish. So it's going to be, not April, August, right? Early August. So I got to go ahead and deliver her to school. When I took the other daughter, I had to go put up TVs and put together things that she needed to be put together for her apartment. My other daughter. So it's been an interesting time, lovely time, and it's been beautiful because it's nice to be back and forth seeing family and everything else. But in terms of the Agile space, one thing that I just told myself recently, and I really just said to myself, hey, self, let's have a little conversation. Let's have a little conversation about the topic. I see someone calling in. This could be my man, Andrew. If that's you. Hold on, we're going to get right to it in just a minute. Let's start having a conversation about regulatory. And I almost feel like pulling Andrew in for the fun of it, and maybe he can just have a conversation with me. That'll be switching it up. But since he called so early, you know, let me do that for the fun of it. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and flip the script because I can. No reason why I can't. And let me do that now. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How you been?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. How you been holding up?
I'm all right. Saw your topic and thought it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
Why can't I hear your thoughts on it, man?
Well, you can. So I just actually switched jobs from a banking industry
Uh huh.
to cellular, and banking was all regulatory compliance almost.
Yeah. Well, I've always worked in banking and insurance.
Exactly.
Um, and then I've spent time in healthcare. So that's always regulatory. So there's always something regulatory when you're dealing with people's money, people's lives. Lots of regulatory stuff that exists in all these different things. So it's what we'll talk about. But you're
Sure.
welcome to listen, Andrew. I just wanted to check in with you and just make sure, see how you've been.
Now we're good.
Okay. All right, my friend. I'll let you listen up and we'll talk about it and then we'll come back and let people ask questions. I appreciate you, Andrew. I'll check back in with you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Let's start this topic off. Seems like everybody's excited about it. You know, I'm gonna say this to you, right? There's something about regulatory stuff that innately scares people, man. And I don't understand why. Because it's a little bit of additional process, is all it really is, right? There are rules that you got to follow. And the question becomes, from an agile perspective, how do you deal with those things? I wrote me down a list so I can make sure that I'm good to go and I can really, really kind of cover this topic. So I remember, um, I've always been in insurance. I kind of started off in insurance at State Farm. But before State Farm, before I was doing Agile, I was at Allstate. And so there's always something that comes up regulatory wise. And you got to deal with regulatory stuff. You really can't get around it. And I really didn't know exactly how to deal with it until probably for about I would say I was in the Agile space 2005. I probably learned how to deal with it in probably 2008 when I was on that 200-person portfolio, and we delivered uh, the first bank at home application where you scan a check and deposit in the bank, right? So I remember having the issue of regulatory come up, and what I really thought about initially was something really simple, and I learned a couple of lessons. The first lesson that I learned in terms of regulatory is you need to understand the end goal. There's always an end goal associated with regulatory stuff. You can get sued, you can be in a position where people have to pay out large chunks of money, just even in terms of being late, in terms of not meeting a deadline. So, regulatory stuff is extremely important. So, one of the biggest things that you have to do is you need to understand what the end goal is when it comes to the regulatory stuff that needs to happen. Now, I say that because the thing that I learned from an auditor was a very simple thing. The auditor did not tell us how to take a requirement, say a regulatory requirement for lack of a better term. They did not tell us exactly the work that we needed to do to accomplish whatever thing we needed to be in compliance with. They gave us whatever those requirements or rules were, and we needed to figure out how we was going to meet them. And what I learned that was really, really very simple. I've worked for multiple insurance companies, and these multiple insurance companies in the same state, okay, would have to roughly follow the same rules for that particular type of insurance. But they never implemented the same way. So the biggest lesson that I learned, and the thing that you really need to write down, is that there's an end goal that one's trying to achieve. And whatever that end goal is the first thing that you need to understand. Now, understanding that end goal is really, really important. But here's the next thing. And this is likely a thing that a lot of you all will not have. You need to have somebody who understands what that regulatory environment needs. You need somebody who knows what they're doing in terms of regulatory stuff. But let me say this to you. You need somebody who is going to be open in terms of the ways that you would go about achieving something. Because you may achieve it differently than a prescriptive or a traditional project of any kind. Does that make sense? So this is really, really important. So here's the deal. Me being inside of an organization, when I was insurance companies, I was an employee. Yeah, I was going to learn that kind of stuff and dive deeper into it, because me learning it was better to understand rules and stuff like that. But I got a chance to deal with compliance folks, auditors, all kinds of people that help me understand. And by having people who have that knowledge is going to be extremely helpful for you, because if they have that knowledge, now you can start thinking about how you're going to create those policies and procedures, because it gets down to the policies and procedures that are going to stick you really, really bad in terms of Scrum and Agile. Now, during this time, one of the experts that I talked to was an actual auditor. And he literally said to me, we don't tell you how to accomplish the things in an audit. We need for you to show proof that has been accomplished and that you are doing it. Show us what you said you was going to do, and we're going to hold you accountable to what you said you was going to do to actually meet that and making sure that you met it. So then I realized something really crazy. We, the organization, make the rules. Did you hear what I just said? Hear what I just said? Us, the organization, we create that next level. The policies and procedures that are going to reflect the values of the organization, the framework that's going to be implemented within the operation, and those things are going to give the guidance to the employees on the things that need to be done. But here's your question. Can you do those things in an iterative, incremental way? And the answer to that is yes. And this is where most of us have the problem, because a lot of us are trying to implement policies and procedures that were strictly built based on a traditional process. And your agile process cannot meet up, doesn't have the same timing as the traditional process. Does that make sense? So it's extremely important for you to understand. If there's an expectation for you to complete something by a particular phase, for lack of a term, by a particular dollar span, for lack of a better term, by a particular anything, you may not be able to perform it the same way when you're doing something like Scrum. So now it goes back to the very top. What was the end goal? Understand who got the expertise. And now what you have to start saying to yourself is, how are we going to take these policies and procedures and make them friendly to all the ways that we deliver work within the building? Look, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying to get rid of it for the traditional process. Does that make sense? Now, look. Do me a favor. If you actually work in an organization where they haven't gotten rid of the traditional process, just say me too. It's not that Me Too movement. This is a different Me Too movement. So just put a pound Me Too in the chat. Because I guarantee you, the vast majority of the people that's here, it's pound Me Too, still got the traditional process in the building. Are you really going to be able to get rid of that traditional process? Probably not. It may not be in your best interest to get rid of this traditional process. It may not be. But the idea is that now, if you take a look at that traditional process, and now you understand that you deliver different than that traditional process, and now the policies and procedures that you are dealing with need to change. Because you are delivering fundamentally a tad bit different. You may be going through all of whatever life cycle that it is that it takes you to build, while they're only going through one part of the life cycle. And they can complete that life cycle and complete a document, and maybe you can't. Maybe your regulatory, whatever it is, your compliance thing wants you to document a test plan. But is a test plan the best way to show that you've actually tested? I don't think so. But in terms of my Scrum, folks, I might go ahead and do some automated testing. That right there can be self-documenting. But in that self-documented manner, is your auditors going to be okay with that? Does your policies and procedures allow you to take automated testing and use that as your test plan? Or the thing that fundamentally meets that end goal? Because realistically, the end goal is to be able to do what? Show that you have tested up the wazoo. Can you still show that? You can. You just do it a little bit different. You do it all the time, not at one time. Does that make sense? So now people have to understand that you operate a little bit different. And most people don't expect perfection. They don't expect the perfect document as you're working through things. Do I sound crazy here? Because guess who made up the policies and procedures? Maybe not you, but I'm going to say you since you're a part of the company. So just go ahead and point the finger back at you. So guess who need to change it? Y'all need to change it. Does that make sense? Now, here's the crazy thing, right? Y'all heard of this thing called a definition of done? If you do, throw DOD in the chat. If you do, you heard of a definition of done, throw DOD in the chat. Because here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And this could be crazy. It could be crazy. I'm going to ask you to hold the people that's doing work accountable for the auditable items as well. Did you hear what I just said? I said, I'm going to ask you to hold the people that's accountable for the actual work to actually be held accountable for these things too. What do I mean by that? Am I going crazy here? I'm not. Because for me, I have added things that were required, certain assets that was required in a more general sense to my definition of done. Meet all auditable whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying add every little item as a bullet point, but if you have auditable items that need to be taken care of, your team can take care of it in small chunks, based on the stuff that's made it to a completion point. I mean, am I thinking wrong here? Because if I am, then just say I'm crazy. But if I'm not, just throw me an amen. Because I say that to you because I'm not joking with you. Your DOD is a place where you actually do hold people accountable. And why wouldn't you hold people accountable? Because you really can't truly get it out the door without it meeting the regulatory compliance stuff. Do you understand? You can't get it out the door unless you actually do that. So why wouldn't you make sure that you take care of those things that you need to take care of? Yeah, we talk all this wonderful and great stuff about Scrum, but the truth is you work inside of an organization that does have requirements and have things that needs to be done. And you can talk all this fluffy stuff about how you're not going to do and how you're not going to do, but when your stuff gets stuck and the customer can't touch it, you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it sooner or later. So why not just do it in small incremental pieces? If you've already started your project, it's no problem. Determine your end goal. Go find people who know what those regulatory things are and can educate you. Take a look at the policies and procedures. Figure out how you can adjust them for your team to meet them. And find some roll-up item to throw in your DOD so then you can account for those things every single sprint. Now, am I going to say to conduct an audit all the time? I'm not going to say to conduct an audit all the time. I'm not going to say to conduct an audit all the time. But you should audit sooner or later. I wouldn't say to make a compliance audit a part of your every sprint thing. But you're going to put your documents into some repository. Your organization likely has some repository on where it's going to go. Right? So for me, when I start thinking about these things, I am actually going to make sure that I'm going to account for some audit. Maybe it's not the auditor's auditing. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm going to also make sure that I account for making sure it gets in the right place in whatever the repository is that you're holding this information. That way, when the real auditors come in, they know where to look. They can find it. You understand? So it's really important for you to be able to do that. It's not impossible to do. You can actually do that. That's not crazy. Now, another thing that I want you to do is something really very simple. And this isn't crazy. It's really simple. If you want your team to be more committed to this stuff, then understand the places where you went wrong and the cost that it had to the organization. And that would likely justify you getting the training that you need to make sure your team understands compliance and understands what they need to do as a team so we can break those things down and deal with it iteratively and incrementally. Does that make sense? Now, Andrew is saying here, not crazy. The particular issue tends to be an issue where many organizations refuse to change their policies out of fear. And that's fear of change, fear of failure. And here's what I would say to that, Andrew, and I agree with you 10,000%, no question. Me and Andrew has done work together, so this is amazing. It is good to see you, brother. I really appreciate you being around. What I ask is I always ask for permission to run an experiment in parallel with whatever the organization is doing. We're going to do whatever it is you desire for us to do. But at the same time, I'd like to run this experiment. Does that make sense? Because the amazing thing is, if you run an experiment, you will already have all the things that they ask done before you ever get to the point where it's really needed. And I found that a lot of times, the auditors they're not crazy about the content, because your content is up to date as far as you can take it. Is as up to date as far as you've completed information. So I'm trying to run something in parallel with this. Because here's the deal. What I've learned is something really very simple. Auditors are my best friend. They are my best friend. I have never run into one that was not willing to assist me in trying to do the right thing. Because normally, the reason why they want me to do or us to do whatever it is that they're asking for us to do is because something went really wrong. And because something really went really wrong, we're trying to get it right. And we're trying to put things in place. You know, like the best way I can put it is a person is fine. I was watching something where a plane lost an engine and the pilot and co-pilot had to run through checklists. Like they always got to run through checklists. Those checklists are important. They're really important. And so the checklists help you. And so I've never had an auditor that gave me a problem. And when I look at what Andrew is saying here, it says auditors don't want you to fail. I've never run into an auditor that wasn't willing to help me, even with the dumbest questions. They've always, it's almost like we have a fear of dealing with them. And why? You know, why? There's no reason to fear them. They're just people, man. And they're really trying to help us do the right thing, right? That's all they're really trying to do, right? I see Sharon has said here that, bam, the FTC helped her over and over again. I've never run into a situation where they have given me a problem. And then usually if you're inside of a big enough company, you have internal people that know all these rules too. So you ain't even got to go as far as to the outside people. You can use the inside people to help you and then use the outside people to just make sure your inside people are right. Ain't that stupid? Make sure that they're right. Does that make sense? So for me, when I think about regulatory and compliance is not difficult. It's just that you got to start with it in mind. A lot of us agilists, we like to start blindly, don't we? We like to say, let's go, let's deliver. No. Sometimes you need to understand what's going on and what you need to do. If you don't understand it, you will run into some problems. As soon as you get the knowledge to understand it, fix that problem. Does that make sense? I'm not saying anything crazy here, and I don't want you to think I'm getting close to saying anything crazy. All I'm really saying is you have people to help you. Nothing crazy about that. You have people to help you. So, that being said, I think that's my topic. I want to repeat those things that I just said to you so we're good to go and you understand them just in case you was writing them down. First thing is determine what the end goal is. Literally, determine the end goal. No question. You got to have an understanding of the end goal of where you're going. Next, talk to people that know. There is experts in the building. There's experts that's probably exterior, that's brought in as consultants. There's probably people that come from another organization that's there to help you. They always help. Get their knowledge. Learn. Talk to them about your process. Talk about how your process is different than a traditional process, and they may have seen it before and can give you some ideas. So know that to be true. Know those experts. Have a conversation. They're not trying to fail. Remember that your policies and procedures were likely built for a traditional process. So you have to change those policies and procedures that was built for the traditional process. Even if it means you got to go through the pain of doing double the work, to process the original way and running an experiment to show them how you can do it differently and it's more effective. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to be painful for you doing it. I've done it before. Well, I've had a traditional process and I've used an agile process or learned what we need to do from an agile perspective and was able to meet the end goal. You understand? Meet the end goal was the purpose, right? Not to do it the same exact way as the not the action getting to the end goal the same way that the traditional process did. Understanding that end goal is absolutely key. Hold your teams accountable. Literally, you can add a line to the definition of done. Don't just do it. Get the team to agree to it, because everybody understands that we need to do it. You'll conduct audits, understand violations, get training if you need to. Those are additional things you can do. Okay. So that being said, that is our topic for tonight. We can continue to talk more about this if you all have questions, but you know how this works. Okay. Basically, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat, or you're welcome to join me on the show. Love to join me on the show. We can have a conversation about it. I love having conversations with people. It's a beautiful thing. Okay? Now, let me see. Who said hi to me? Because I forgot to do that part. AB helped me out. So thank you, AB. You said you could hear me when I asked, can you hear me? That was a good thing, because I'm using these AirPods to hear you in my regular mic. Right? So that's a good thing. Thank you. Mr. Franklin, I always see you every once in a while. Enjoy seeing you, brother. Andrew, it's been a while since we worked together. I know you always doing great things. I mean, I remember when we worked together, and then you just went off and did greatness. And I was like, why does dude leave me behind, man? Why you leave me behind, man? Oh, man. Sharon, I love that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. I love that you grabbed that Scrum Master thing and making it happen. Miss Evelyn, hi, how are you? As usual. Jennifer, hello. I see Krishna here. Hey, Krishna, how you doing? Let's see, UB210. I don't know exactly what your name is, but how you doing? DODs are great. Let's see, I got a few amens, and I think I'm good. I'm good. So, I'll ask again, you have any questions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat or join us on the show. Now, as usual, we don't have to have, a long show. I'm here until you guys tell me to leave. Ain't that crazy? I'm here until you tell me to tell me to leave. Like, I'm here until you kick me out. That's stupid, right? That's really, really dumb. No, I just remember, when I really first ran into, like, when I was at State Farm and we first did the Scrum thing, I wasn't worried about nothing at all. I was trying to get an exception for everything, literally. When I went to Capital One, though, they gave me a list of all the project management stuff along with the compliance stuff that needed to be done. And they gave me that list in the very beginning of my effort. So that is when I started to say, hey, we need to find ways to experiment. And that's when I had other coaches around, because I was just in the Scrum for about 2 years at that point. But I had other older coaches that were not just Agile coaches. They were Lean, they were Six Sigma coaches, and all kinds of other coaches that existed that knew process and everything else. And I think I really started cutting my teeth when I was at Capital One in 2007. And that's what got me hip to the whole, compliance thing, because I understood compliance working at the insurance companies. It's just that I wasn't managing it. I wasn't the one that had to make sure that we were getting that stuff done. But at Capital One I did, because I was officially by title, the Agile Project Manager. And being the Agile Project Manager just put me in a different place in terms of the decisions that needed to be made. But that's when I started to learn that you do not have to wait until certain things are complete, until certain phases are complete. And a lot of times the people that I talk to, because I always ask a lot of questions, I'm always trying to make sure I'm doing things right to some degree. I love breaking rules, but I do really try to do things right until I give up. And so in me trying to do things right, it was just about me talking to various people. And, for the most part, having them see my face enough. So and then they knew me by name and knew I was just really trying to learn. I am trying to skate, or anything like that. It is, I would say, this statement by Andrew is extremely true. The first time you run into compliance and regulatory items, it is overwhelming. And when I was at Capital One and I saw that list of whatever it was overwhelming. I was like, this is crazy. But then I just kind of said to myself, you just bite it off a small piece at a time. How can I do this in a way that will work within the way that we do work, within the way that we are performing things? And when I thought about that, and then I went to go ask people questions, and I just asked questions, and I asked questions, and I talked about what's the difference if it was to happen this way versus this way. What his policy says this, we don't really operate that way, but we can still meet the end goal of what the policy is trying to achieve if we do it this way. I'm not trying to skip it. I'm just trying to find a way that naturally works with the team so the team isn't doing double the work or the team isn't missing it, right? And so when the first time you run into it, it's going to be overwhelming. Man, just get over it. I'm not going to say that. Let me take that back. Don't just get over it. Come places like this and cry. Just come on the show on a Monday and start shedding some tears. Get on the show and just get right on the show. Come and get on the show live, and I'll cry with you. I will take some water, put it right under my eyelids, and I will cry right there with you about that first time you got to deal with audible items. But if you have them in the beginning, audible items are horrible when you get them at the end. That's when they're a huge problem. When you are working in your agile process, here's the deal. I need you to throw another Me Too out there if this has happened to you, because a few of you this has happened to. Have you ever been in a situation where you are working as an agile team, happy, go lucky, everybody's happy, and right before it's time to release, they give you the list of things that you didn't do, the list of things that need to be done? If that's happened to you, throw in the chat a Me Too, because this happened to me on more than one occasion, and it sucks when you are getting toward the end of something and now you got to do all this other heavy lifting to get it out the door because you wasn't thinking about certain things. Don't worry about it. To me, if you haven't had that happen, you got somebody, you got a higher power on your side. What you call that higher power? I don't know. But you got a higher power on your side. Okay? Because I've always experienced it time and time again. So realistically, regulatory compliance, it ain't really that difficult. If you're an agile team and you are in that situation where you got to deal with it, you're going to deal with it one way or the other. And I find dealing with it in an agile way is way more palatable, and it gives you an opportunity to get feedback. It gives you an opportunity to get feedback, okay? It has been my experience that in a lot of cases, the Scrum teams are already doing the necessary work, that meets the need, It's a matter of documenting it and getting the policy updated to give you the approval to work that way. I couldn't have said it any better, Andrew. That's the reason why I like you. Because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, most of my teams was doing all the work, and the truth of the matter is, doing the work much better than your classic traditional team. We was doing the work more than a classic traditional team. Our fault was the documentation. Our fault was the policy or the procedure that did not match the way we were doing things. And now the problem is we in the thick of it. We're doing the work. The policy is the same old policy, and then organizations may try to hold you accountable to the fact that you started with that policy and you can't change. They may do some silliness like that to you. But that's the reason why I say to you from the very beginning, you need to start looking at these things so and then you can try to get it updated. So you can get it updated so then everything is smooth the rest of the way. Because it is more than likely you are doing, as a Scrum team, more than what it's asking for. But it's horrible to be at the end and have to do all of this documentation. And then to be going to people trying to update things because you weren't able to meet it a certain way. That's not the place you want to be. Try to understand it, get an understanding of it from the beginning, and trust me, it's going to make your life way easier. These things aren't extremely difficult. They're just really time consuming if it catches you at the end. You know, and then you're trying to answer questions and then you get all defensive and it just turns negative. So stay away from the negativity. You know, try your best to be as positive as you can, and then just kind of go from there and take it from there. Like right now, there's not a lot of questions on regulatory stuff. I don't mind there not being a lot of questions on regulatory stuff. I'm good with that. But it's something a lot of you all should have questions about. Some of you probably not even running into it yet because some of you may be a little bit too new and you're not thinking about it. I get it. Any of you old heads in here that's been around this a long time, you definitely have experienced regulatory. If you haven't, maybe you don't work for a company that's a problem of any kind. Something for you to think about. Like truly, truly, truly think about. Okay? So I'll ask again. Regulatory stuff, I think is great. I like to put myself in a position where we're not going to get fines. We're not going to have to, give away coin. We're not going to put somebody's life in danger. We're not going to allow people to be taken advantage of. We're not going to, we're going to do the best right thing that we can, and we're going to try to we're going to do it better. That's how I always think about it. I don't know how you may think about it, but that's how I think about it. So it's very, very interesting. I love it. I always appreciate it, and I'm kind of with it, right? So that being said, I'll ask one more time. Any questions about non-regulatory stuff? Any questions about regulatory stuff? You're welcome to drop it in the chat or join me on the actual show. People be scared to join me on the show because I'll be getting all excited. But that excitement shouldn't scare you. It's a good thing, right? It's an amazingly good thing. It's nothing but pluses, right? Yeah, so anyway, I like the regulatory topic. It's just, it's just a good thing. I always just found it to be exciting for me. And when I, ran into a Capital One, I really was good. I really didn't have no issues. Like literally, I did not have any issue. The place where I had an issue was places that weren't willing to adjust the policy. And fortunately, I wasn't the first agilist at Capital One when I went back there in 2007. There were people that was there a year before me at least, and they went through the pain. I didn't go through the pain. I came after all the pain. So I was there doing a wave, but not in the beginning wave of that first big agile thing at Capital One. So I had groundwork laid for me already, and I had a good idea to do. In certain situations, it can help to drive appropriate behaviors on a team that you were not seeing, and I would agree. That's the reason why I mentioned accounting for these things at some high level in a definition of done. It's one of those things I like to always make sure that we are keeping our documentation up to date. I always encourage my teams to, whatever documentation we need to do it up and through that particular sprint. So I remember at one point I had to do training documentation along with the work that was being done. And my team would just do the training up through the actual sprint or the requirements that we're working toward in that particular sprint. And so if you think about your audit the same way, you got a big end goal and you're doing pieces of policies dealing with certain procedures, maybe in smaller ways along the way. So I don't think it's something that you should be afraid of. Well, I'm going to repeat that a different way. You should be really scared if it's your first time and use that fear to get you to go do the right thing. Learn and grow. Learn and grow. If you deal with these policies and procedures in a way that will help you grow, you're doing the most amazing thing. Okay? So, I thought a lot of people was going to have a lot of problems and have a lot of questions on this topic. It ain't difficult, man. It's not difficult. You break it down a certain way. Hopefully, you all understand what I mean by this, and hopefully, it is helpful for you, because I don't have this. I don't have these issues anymore. Well, I shouldn't, right? But I'm trying to give you advice so you don't have the problem, if that makes sense. Okay? So, on that note, we're going to wrap up that topic. I think we're good to go on that topic. I would talk about another topic. Well, let me get an idea of what you all want to see next, because I think my topic next week is going to be your career sucks. Do something. I don't know why I want to say that, but I just want to say it. I think that's going to be my next week's topic. Your career sucks. Do something. Ain't that stupid? Like, literally, can you imagine me saying that to somebody? Your career sucks. Do something. But anybody that knows me know that I probably would say it. So, nothing but good things. So, that being said, I think that's a plus. I think that is major. If there's anybody who had an experience with a regulatory item and wants to talk about it, love to talk to you about it. You probably have more experience than me. You may have dealt with a regulatory item more recent than I have. And that would be a good thing, because I'm not inside organizations all the time, especially in the past 2 years with the whole pandemic thing. It's been like, but actually I had my first in-person class in New York a few weeks ago. So that was good. I didn't get COVID, so that was good. So I actually enjoyed that. It's been a while since I've been in front of people, and not in this whole virtual world. Even though I'm enjoying the virtual world very much, right? It's a little crazy, but it's a good thing. I don't complain. I have no reason to complain. I actually enjoy. Anybody that knows me, y'all know I enjoy what I do. No question about that. So on that note, I'm double checking once again. I think we're good for the night then. Okay? Yeah, teaching in person, Andrew, it was the thing. I loved it. I was on the road 95% of the time. It was crazy. I enjoyed just going to different cities and just being able to pull in the I guess ambiance of that place, right? It's a whole different feel when you go to Charlotte, and then you go to New York, and then you out in LA, right? Whole different feel. So I enjoyed it so much. And again, I can't say we're gonna ever get back to that day, because it is so convenient training online. Like, it's super convenient for the people that's doing the class, as well as for the person that's giving the class, because you don't have those expenses that are associated with, if you're in town, the gas money that it takes to get to the place, or the bus fare that it takes to get to the place, right? If you're not in that town, the train, the hotel, and all that stuff, right? But I loved in person. And I'm going to tell you, when I had the training a couple weeks ago at a private organization, I loved it. I loved it so much. I really just loved it. I mean, I cannot tell you, I cannot pretend with you how much I love it. I mean, I can't fake it. I can't pretend at all, right? People tend to learn better in person because they can do the hands-on activities. I would agree with you. I just think it may be a little bit different these days, because I found that the people that are interested in learning, they can learn very well online. The people that are interested in learning, they kind of take a way to fake themselves through it. For real. They really, really do that. and it happens. It is what it is. Um, but I do think that face to face is always going to be better. But I think virtual, with all the collaboration tools that's been added to our world, I mean, if you think about pre-COVID, how many collaboration tools really existed? Like, they existed, but how robust were they? I mean, if you think about Zoom, did you hear about Zoom at all? And if you heard about Zoom, did you really give Zoom any respect prior? What about the murals and murals of the world, the various collaboration tools? All those things became way more robust, right? Um, I was saying to someone today in class, the problem that I have fundamentally is the problem of the non-verbal communication. You know, Andrew picks up on those cues, right? You know, I found that I can do a real good job with the heads up, but there's things that people do below their neck, below their chest, that it's harder to get a real feel on, because you're not really seeing their bodies. You know, some people fidget, some people, have a way that they sit when they're not comfortable. The hands may be in their lap or in a different position that can give you a hint of something else. So realistically, the nonverbal stuff is always extremely important. And so I always enjoyed getting that nonverbal, understanding that nonverbal. And I actually was talking in class about it today, because someone asked me what was the difference between online versus the actual in person. And I think that the gap closed a whole lot during COVID. Face to face is the best way. If you can't be face to face, then electronically simulate face to face, and that will be probably the closest that you'll get. So I think it is the second best. It's not too bad being second best. It's not too bad. I don't think it is. But the cost is so different, for everybody involved. It's put a lot of businesses out of business, but the cost is so different. It just is almost ridiculously different, which is crazy. Okay. And I just have people that go through whatever they go through. I'm good with it. I got classes today, and people are but they're enjoying themselves. I think that they're getting a lot of value out of the classes I do, even online. Because I'm still just as crazy. The difference, I'll tell you one of the big differences. Like, in person, I used to be able to run across the room. Like, there was one point, especially when I was beginning, right? I would talk about, I think it was Agile. And I would make sure that I'm about theatrics. I'd make sure that I walk to one side of the room when I get to a certain cue point for myself. And then when that cue point came, I'd run across the other side to the other side of the room. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. When I first started training, I actually took Mumbles with me. That's the penguin back there. I actually really did take Mumbles with me in my first trainings. It's truth. It's just true, right? But that would be 2013, 2014. way back then, right? When I first really began doing the CST work, right? And some of you all experienced me between 2013 and 2015. It'd have been it was way more animated. It was way more get ready for the run and run across the room. It was made way more. It was a lot different, right? But I've calmed down. I have calmed down. You all just don't understand how much I've calmed down. Yeah, I think I did have it I think I did do that at your training, Andrew. Yeah, I trained you a long time ago in Indianapolis. Like, I got a whole bunch of people from Indianapolis in my class, in one of my classes today, like a slew of people from Indianapolis. I love Indianapolis. I always came to Indianapolis. Indianapolis was great. I've always came to Indianapolis. I love Indianapolis, right? I got 2 nieces in Indianapolis right now. They're baby girls, right? They really are. And as I was saying, one of my daughters is going to IU, so Indianapolis, I'm gonna be around all the time. Just know that I will be. It's just true. I might get a contract in Indianapolis. Maybe I'll get a contract. Andrew, if I trained you in mid 2013, like mid 2013, I started training. I started training the CSM May of 2013. So if I trained you mid 2013, Andrew, you was probably one of the first 50 people I trained. No lie. No lie. So, like literally, you was the first 50 people I trained. Cause literally, cause we, yeah. But yeah, I would literally run across the room. I mean, Andrew's seen me run across the room. But Andrew's done great. He's done great since he's been to the training. He's done great with all this agile stuff. There's certain people that are just agilists to their heart, to their core. And you're probably right. I think you was probably like the 4th or 5th class, like for real, that I've ever done. Literally, I will tell you all this. The first class that I did, I did in Houston. It was 2 people in the class. I put somebody in there that I knew, and then somebody was a friend of somebody that I knew. I got a whole training room. I got everything. I made no money on that one. I just did it because it was like, I need to do this. It was 2 people in class. It was a beautiful thing. I enjoyed it. But yeah, literally. It was like 4th class, 5th class that I had done ever. And I've done a lot of classes. So thank you, Andrew, for building my confidence. I really appreciate it. You're one of the reasons why I'm still here. For real. No joke. And then we did a lot of work after that together, Andrew. So I always appreciate you. So that being said, we've gone down memory lane a tad bit. I want to make sure that I remind you, like and subscribe. Please do those 2 things. If you're on LinkedIn, like. If you're on LinkedIn, go to YouTube, like and subscribe. Okay? You're on YouTube, you know what to do in terms of there. So do that. I want to remind you about this regulatory thing, right? This regulatory thing, and remember that goal is really important, right? The goal is super important. Having knowledgeable people that's knowledgeable about auditable compliance regulatory stuff is going to be priceless for you. Those things is what the policies and procedures are based off of, right? And so you want to make sure that those things get adjusted based on how you guys are working differently. Do that as early as you can. It's always going to be an extra plus for you. What else did I say? Look at my list, because I said something else. I forget what I said. Yeah, not employees. Your Scrum team, make sure that they are accountable for it, because you can include things like that in your definition of done. Don't be crazy about it, but you can. Okay, and train people for sure. And I will say to Andrew, thank you. I appreciate it. Even as a little young trainer, I always try to do my best for everybody. And, if you haven't experienced me, you've experienced me here. So that's a good thing. So I appreciate it. And I will try to do my best until the day I pass away. So that being said, Andrew, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate everybody coming. So thank you. I can't see everybody's name, but Evelyn, I always see you show up. Jennifer, I always see you show up. AB, Sharon, I always see you all show up. So thank you. UB210, I don't know who you are. Krishna, welcome. I don't know if I've seen you before. Franklin, I need to see you more, buddy. I don't even know why I don't see you. I don't see you enough, Franklin. All right, so on that note, I think it's been amazing. I think we've hit this topic with a nail. Right on the head. Next week, I think I really am going to talk about your career sucks. Do something about it. That is so stupid. I like it though. Am I crazy? Your career sucks. Do something about it. That is so stupid. But I think if I was to do that, I'm going to have 20 people show up. Like 20, 30 people show up like, hey, we want to talk about this. And I'll be talking crazy. So next week, your career sucks. Do something about it. Other than that, I'm going to say, hey, I do really appreciate you all. You all always excite me. You are the reason why I come here and do this every single week. So next week, whatever it is, the 25th, we're going to start at 8 o'clock. We're going to go for an hour. Our topic is going to be your career sucks. Do something about it. And we're going to figure out what we're going to do about all our careers that actually suck. So we'll talk about career paths and all that other stuff. We'll talk about what's dead, what's not dead. We'll talk about being a consultant. We're going to talk about your career sucks. Do something about it. On that note, I really, really appreciate y'all. I'm going to say peace to you. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. Don't do anything crazy. Be the best that you can be. Own what you do. And be you. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you next week. Thank you.